Okay, well, welcome to this week's post-grad semantics webcast.
What we're going to do today, we're going to have a 10-minute discussion about something that we've been thinking a lot about, which is artistic communities. Then we're going to have a special guest, the fairy godmother of fitness, Danielle Black, one of our co-workers, co-grad students from our grad school days at K-State. And then our last segment, we'll be talking about a topical issue that's been in a lot of articles lately, which is fathers and how they're represented in the media.
In honor of Father's Day. We're going to take something, once again, we're going to take something everyday and happy and start analyzing it today. It'll be great. Okay, so yeah, for our first section today, we want to talk about artistic communities because as postgraduates who are not going on in academia and won't be part of that kind of artistic community, we've been thinking a lot about where we want to live and what kind of jobs we want to have and what kind of people we want to be around because we realized after graduation and we moved away from grad school that we really, really loved the artistic community that we were in.
Right. It's so interesting because one of my friends right now, he is living in New Haven, which is, right next to Yale. And he's like, well, it doesn't matter what program you're in. You can always find, like, the artistic people in any community and just kind of, get in with them. And I'm wondering how true that really is. Does everywhere have artistic communities, or are they hard to find, or I don't know.
Yeah, and it seems like that would be one type of community that could be hard to get into if you don't have the connection immediately, right. Especially if you're kind of introverted, artistic type of person. But yeah,
or if you're writing in a garret, that's so hard to get involved with people when you're just sitting in your garret all the time.
Right, exactly.
Although, do writers in garrets really need artistic communities? I guess that's a better question.
That defeats the point.
They rely on their own genius.
Yes. But it does seem like one of those kind of underground communities that if they are around, maybe they're harder to find and figure out. So that's something that Caitlin and I tend to worry a lot. That's something that we share in our personalities. So that's something we've been worrying about is that we really, really want to have that and find it, and we're concerned that maybe it isn't everywhere.
Well, I think that just like what's interesting about having an artistic community is that it seems like I'm sure most people are familiar with Norton anthologies, right? They have these huge anthologies, and at the beginning of each selection, because they select major works from major important literary artists, and they give you kind of some historical context before the work. So in the beginning, it'll give you some background about the authors, and so many famous authors have these artistic communities. They have a group of really close best friends that they rely on, and they talk to all the time. They share their work, they mail their work, they get feedback, they talk about ideas together in bars, in the park, in each other's homes. If it's a time of political turmoil, they're often on the same side in terms of politics and bouncing off these really important ideas with each other, and it seems like that community really informs their writing. I'm trying to think of some examples. Obviously, Emerson and Thoreau were existing around the same time, and we've got Hawthorne and Melville, and they were certainly in contact. Mm-hmm. Can you think of any?
Yeah, and even a lot, like you hear a lot of cool stories about communities like within one city and people going to each other's houses and doing like readings or giving each other challenges, like we're each going to write a play right now and share them, and like pushing each other in that way. But it's really fun too to read like letters between different artists that are maybe a long-distance artistic community relationship.
Right. Well, did you see that letter I sent you that Hawthorne had, not Hawthorne, Hemingway had written after reading, whose work did he read? And he just, like, tore it apart.
Right,
right. But, of course, I love you, and we're such good friends, and we have to get together sometime. And, I think in a way that's what our webcast right now is trying to replicate, keeping that artistic community that we developed in Kansas open,
that's
long distance.
Totally part of the motivation for the webcast. Comes from that desire for artistic community. And because I think why it's important to us, the community aspect, is that there's, I don't know if it's more motivation, but there's a different kind of motivation when you have someone else looking at your work, or you're sharing it with someone else, or you're sharing ideas. Caitlin and I are also really into collaboration. We love Google Docs like it's nobody's business. We use them all the time when we're trying to write stuff, whether it's artistic or academic or whatever. So.
Right. Or, even ideas for this webcast. Spent some time.
Trusty Google Docs. Yeah, I guess we haven't really said what we mean by artistic community, though, and it's, I kind of feel weird talking about it because I feel like I don't know much about it. I've had undergrad where I didn't have as strong of that kind of community as I did in grad school, so that's really my only and my biggest experience. It's not like I've gone and lived in New York and been part of an artistic community there. So, I don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about... Yeah. So we should want to. That would be good. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about what that community was like for us, or what it means? What does artistic community mean to you, Caitlin?
For me, I would say artistic community is just when you're. Is my video freezing?
It's like pausing every once in a while. I can still hear what you're saying, but it's not bad.
I can hear you too, but it's just like it looks weird.
Okay.
Well. For me, I guess the artistic community just means a group of people that you share your work with, and you talk about ideas all the time with. And, they'll give you, just through that conversation, because it's so hard to come up with ideas by yourself, when you're in isolation. You might think of this really awesome idea, and then you end up talking it out with the person. They ask you questions, and they push that idea to its limit, and it becomes even better. That's the main reason why in creative teams, even in the corporate world, people are in teams. They're working together to push each other to get those good ideas. And in literature, and, if you're writing plays or you're screenwriting or you're producing movies, you're always around these groups of people that are pushing you to make these ideas even better. I would say that that's what an artistic community is, just a group of people that you share your work with and talk to about your work.
Yeah, and I think that idea is really important. It seems like the more concrete ideas become, artistic ideas become, and the further you get them away from your inner self, the better they get, because as a writer, a lot of times you think you have this amazing potential for awesome ideas, and you're like, I feel super awesome, but I have that in me, but you're afraid to write anything down because as soon as you do, you're afraid that it's not going to be awesome. But that's the only way to get better, is to actually do it. So there's this weird disconnect that it takes a million years to get over, where you think you're a super genius in your head, and as soon as you write it down, you're like, God, this sucks. But it only gets better the more you write it down and revise it. And one step further than that is talking to other people about it and getting feedback, and seeing other people. And also,
having that artistic community is just giving you more motivation to write. I know that I'm going to talk with you every Monday about this webcast, and we're going to write down ideas for it, and then every Sunday we're going to make it. So it's just, we have these self-made deadlines. Yeah,
deadlines are important too, because the more you put something off, or it's easier to put things off more, because, I don't know, everyone wants to feel that spark of inspiration, but it doesn't usually happen, every Monday at whatever time. So if you force yourself to get things out, you're just getting more practice when maybe you don't feel like you're being very artistic at the time. But
right, it's so true. You're like, oh, I'm gonna think of this amazing blog idea when I think of it, not on Monday. But the fact is, if you don't try to think about it, if you don't set aside time to think about it, well, your Monday, your Tuesday, your Wednesday, your Thursday is all going to be filled with these other things that you have to do, like laundry and cooking dinner, and none of it is going to be thinking about the podcast or the webcast. So clearly you're not going to have just this brilliant flash of ideas.
Exactly, because one day you're like, I'm kind of tired today, my brain's not really working, and the next day you're like, I'm too distracted by this other thing that I'm thinking about, and it gets pushed off forever. So deadlines, artistic communities help create deadlines, and that's what I kind of miss and liked about grad school, was we were kind of not forced, but it came up in conversation all the time, our ideas of the books we had to read for class, because we knew we were all reading the same books, our papers, because we wanted them to be better. So even if we were hating it as we were writing them, we talked about it constantly and tried to improve them, because grades are also a good motivation for being artistic. But deadlines.
You know how I feel about grades. They're arbitrary determinations of our self-worth.
Exactly.
But I do think, you watched the most recent episode of Girls, right, where she goes to do a reading and
yes.
it's horrible. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like those are the kind of artistic communities that maybe that's where you start making those communities, but on a sense it seems very false. Just like, oh, I'm going to sit down every Monday and I'm going to think about this webcast. You know, that seems false. And so is like going out to a reading, a poetry reading, and reading your poetry and trying to make connections there. That seems very false.
Yeah, it feels weird.
Inauthentic. But in the same way, I think that, dating on Match.com might feel inauthentic, you know.
Yeah, there are a lot of things in life, and being artistic is so romanticized that a lot of times it's disappointing what the actual experience can be like. But I don't know, that's real life. Like the fiction that we create in art is totally different from the life that we live, and we have to get used to doing the mundane things to get to that, like, I don't know, artistic whatever comes out in the end.
I don't know. I liked our poetry readings in Kansas. I thought girls did poetry readings a bit of a bad rap.
Yeah, we should talk about girls sometime for sure.
I know we should. I'm sorry. Yeah. Is it time for Danielle to jump in?
Magical fairy godmother harp noise.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, our next section is going to feature our guest for this week, and her name is Danielle Black, and she's amazing. She's going to keep going, isn't it? And we're calling it the Fairy Godmother of Fitness because it's not going to be, that's awesome.
I used Jib Jab to make this.
Yes. It's not going to be solely about fitness, but she's really into all things kind of healthy lifestyle related, especially fitness, but also like dieting, sleep, stress, everything related to bodily health, I suppose. So. Yeah.
The great thing about Danielle is she's also a creative writer, so she's written some amazing stuff. Right now she's in the middle of a young adult novel. Okay, Danielle's here. I'm going to try to exit and enter. See if that fixes my...
Danielle!
Hi! Sorry. I had to click a box, and it took me a while to figure out I had to click the box.
No, we're just so happy that you're here. So do I need to re-invite Caitlin? Let me try to figure this out.
I don't know.
We're having technological difficulties. Even though we're supposed to be the experienced ones here, so it's all good. It's okay. We're super excited.
I can hear her still, though. You can hear Caitlin.
Hey.
Now I see her.
Hi. Everything's fixed.
Okay. Okay. We're good.
I was stuck on a screen share, and also my video kept freezing. So I've entered and returned, hopefully better.
Okay, Danielle.
Yes.
Please tell us how to be Stage 5 Awesome. So what's the title of your new blog again?
It's Becoming Healthy, Fit, and Stage 5 Awesome.
Stage 5 Awesome. That's the part that I'm interested in. So.
And that's on WordPress, in case anyone wants to go look it up.
Yes, you should right now. So tell us kind of about that. Tell us about your awesome blog.
I posted it. I have 2 posted right now, and then I've started writing a third, but it's just kind of in the idea stage. But the first one is actually about the value of rest, which is, it's a funny way to start off an exercise blog, right? Let's talk about not exercising.
I like it.
I'm hooked already. Tell me more.
Well, I've been really tired lately, and I read this article by this personal trainer, and she said that it was important to take a rest week about every 10 to 12 weeks, so about every 3 months you take a week off from exercise. And I'd never heard of that before. I've never taken a rest week in my life, and I just kept telling myself, you're tired because you've been in grad school and it ruined your life. So this is why you're exhausted. But I don't know, it was like the type of tired that even sleeping for like 10 hours at night wasn't getting rid of.
I remember those mornings after that, and you were like, just slept 10 hours, and I could go sleep some more.
Yeah, and then they'd be lunch, and I'd be like, okay, I want to go back to bed. So I thought, all right, I'm gonna take a rest week. So the blog is about my week just taking off from exercise, which is something I've never done. done. So I feel really great now. It's over. The rest of the week is over, and I feel great.
Rest week is over.
Yeah,
that's so interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard. I know that like everyone says 1 day a week. You should, you know, you shouldn't exercise 7 days a week, but I haven't heard about taking home.
A whole week off is really interesting. Were you like really sore when you jumped back in?
No, I was really surprised because I thought I'd go back and I would be sore, but I wasn't. And I mean, I was working out. I was boxing the first day, and then I did weights, and I was fine.
Danielle is also now an amazing boxer, and she just started this habit like last year. So
in January, I just started boxing in
January.
January.
She started in January. Now she's a pro. So Danielle is awesome at all things physical.
Right. Danielle convinced us to do salsa dancing with her. She also does boxing.
That was the greatest idea ever.
That
Danielle and I did belly dancing together, which was super awesome.
Belly dancing, weightlifting.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Okay, tell us about your second post. That one's about, was that one about your little sister?
Oh, yeah. My second post, I started writing when I was still writing my first one because I was sitting at my desk writing, which is where I usually am. That's where I spend my life, writing at my desk. And I heard my sister, Marissa, she's 21, in the kitchen, and she was telling my 9-year-old sister, she was like, you know, you need to eat that, whatever it was, at the kitchen table. You can't take that into the TV room. You know, eating in front of the TV is bad. And Tori's like, why? Why can't I take it into the TV room? And Marissa was like, because if you sit in front of the TV, you're going to eat more than you should. Like, this did not just happen. So I walked in and I said to my sister, I said, tell me I did not just hear you telling our 9-year-old sister not to eat in front of the TV because she's going to eat too much. My sister was like, oh my God, I wasn't even thinking. And I mean, what she said wasn't wrong. She's exactly right. You shouldn't. I mean, as an adult, you should not sit in front of the TV because you will eat more than you should. That's statistically proven. They've done, like, studies on this. But I mean, a 9-year-old does not need to be worried about that. And I've been reading more and more articles about either, like, childhood or early teen, like, anorexia and bulimia. Like, I mean, we're talking 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And, I mean, while I don't think my sister is in any sort of danger of that, I still don't want that in her head. You know, kids remember things. Victoria will bring up things that happened 4 years ago, and I'm like, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, it makes me think of in Little Miss Sunshine when she's eating the ice cream, and he's like, are you sure you want to eat all of that?
It's like, you're a kid.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to eat it all.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are some parents that completely regulate their children's diets, even when they're very young, because they're afraid of those bad habits developing later in life. So, I mean, when do you start then? When do you start talking about eating only because you're hungry and not because you're bored in front of the TV?
Right, and it's like, how do you approach this subject? Because there's such an obsession with being skinny in our country, and that is often more important than being healthy. So how do you keep the focus on, you know, being healthy, I guess?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think that's hard, and I think there's been so many articles about childhood obesity. I mean, we're talking about eating disorders, but I mean, there's also a rise in childhood obesity, and so then it's like, I mean, if your child is overweight, you know, I don't know how I would talk to my child if they were overweight. I think it's good to try to give your child healthy food so that they learn to like those things. Like, you have to give your kid broccoli and salad early on, or they're just going to learn they don't like that. So you have to start giving it to them when they're little so they don't know the difference, you know? You have to introduce them to all those fruits, and you have to, you know, introduce them to eating right. But I think it also comes down to telling them to go play. You know, Victoria, I mean, I see with my sister, we're in the age of technology or whatever.
Yeah.
Victoria knows so much. She'll take my dad's iPad. My dad doesn't even know how to work the iPad. I don't know why he has the iPad. He can't use it. But Victoria knows how to. She's got like 99 games on there, like bunny games and all this stuff. And she'll just take it and she'll just sit in the living room and play on this little thing, and my mom will be like, okay, give me that. She'll, like, my mom has a shelf way high up where she'll put it. She'll be like, no more. Go outside, go play. I mean, you have to do that.
Right. It makes me think, I don't know if this is kind of a really dated reference. I'm probably giving myself away here, but if you guys have ever watched Desperate Housewives, there's that one housewife who's a model, and then she has these 2 children, and they're both very obese. And there's this one episode where she's so fed up, and she drives away and tells her daughter to jog home.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there was this whole controversy over it, because in part it was because the mother like never cooked any healthy meals, and they always had like macaroni and cheese all the time, and you know, other high-fat foods and snacks.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with macaroni and cheese. I love macaroni and cheese.
Oh, I know your feelings on that. Sorry.
Pasta.
But you can. I know pasta. But, I mean, you can't just eat that. Like, your child can't just say, I don't feel like eating my vegetables, and that be acceptable. They still got to eat them. You know, you have to find ways to sneak them in there so they don't even really recognize that they're eating healthy. But I think that, I've never seen that episode, but I think that attitude of being like, this is a problem, so I'm going to, like, stick my child on a treadmill or something is horrible. That's not acceptable. I don't think you should be telling your child that they're fat. I don't think the focus should ever be on weight. It should always be on health, and you should be doing things like preparing meals or preparing snacks that are getting them to eat healthfully in a way that they don't understand. Like, I was just watching a video with Jillian Michaels. She was on some talk show, and she was talking about, I know, I love her. I love her attitude. She's great. I love her. She's so spunky. But she was saying with kids, like, for a snack, you should, like, have it ready for them when they come home from school, and it should be, like, prepackaged, like, whatever it'll be, like an apple and some peanut butter and, I don't know, some pretzels or whatever it is, and it's there and portioned out and something healthy for them to eat, and that's their snack, and then, you know, then dinner is whatever you make for dinner, and that's a way to get around that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great idea.
And I hate that there is this crazy stigma between, like, ew, that's healthy food, I don't want to eat that, and, like, you know, advertisements in the kid culture and whatever. Kids learn that stuff, like, really early on, so it's hard to fool them and be like, eat whatever you think is delicious, because in their minds, they're like, junk food is delicious, and healthy food is gross, and you have to get over that.
Some kids are really good, though. When I was a camp counselor, the 3-year-olds, the ones who always ate healthy at home, or they were just, like, didn't even like the junk food. I think maybe us seeing it on TV think that kids all love that, but real-life kids, they actually don't super
Caitlin knows the most about real-life kids, so I know,
sorry.
I'm not the kid expert.
I have had many years as a camp counselor in my youth. But, you know, I remember this one child, her mom used to send her with a Lunchable every day. And if you did that for me, I love Lunchables as an adult. I do. Sometimes I just buy one. I'm like, Lunchable. And I'll, like, you know, pick out in my kitchen. Yeah. It's terrible. I know they're so bad for you. They have so many preservatives. But, you know, she hated Lunchables. She wouldn't eat them. She didn't want the candy in them either. It was a fight every lunch period to get her to eat those Lunchables. She thought they were gross. And, like, you know, other kids are the same way, that they'll say, no, I don't want that sugary ice pop. I want an apple instead. And you're like, where did you learn this stuff? You know,
I love it. Okay, so we do have our 10 minutes with Danielle is up, unfortunately, and it flew by too fast. But I hope to have her back again soon, because she has ridiculous amounts of knowledge when it comes to being healthy. We can always do a little bit more of that. So,
bye, Danielle.
Awesome. Bye, guys. Thank you. Of course.
So our next segment, you guys probably remember the news in review. So we'll be talking about one issue that's really topical right now, and that's the idea of fathers in how they're represented in the media.
Yes. So what do we want to start with?
Well, I was reading this article on Slate, and it was saying, it's titled The Evolution of the Adultish Dad by Hannah Rosin. And if you don't know her, she writes for XX, which is a segment of Slate which I absolutely adore. I love XX, and they always talk about pop culture and the way women are represented in pop culture, and, you know, issues that we would talk about, you know, in our own blogs and interests. And so one of the things that they said was that Phil Dunphy from Modern Family is an evolution from the adultish dad because he makes money. That was her main argument, and I didn't wholly agree with that. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, so he's an evolution from, like, what kind of characters are we looking at before this?
Well, she doesn't specifically mention him, but I always think of Ray Romano
Okay.
from Everybody Loves Raymond. He's just, he's got the shrewish wife who's always yelling at him for not doing things correctly, and he can never seem to do anything right.
Right.
He doesn't particularly seem to want to be married to her and or have children at all.
And Phil's an evolution from that because he likes his marriage and his children?
He's successful? I'm not sure. Yeah, he seems to like his children.
Yeah. That's interesting. Modern Family is a really interesting show to look at, and some people think that it's very progressive, and some people think that it's very not. So,
really? I haven't heard anyone say it's not progressive. What are they saying about it?
That, like, Mitch and Cam's relationship is, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but, like, turning them into, like, the typical perfect family.
Right.
And, like, trying to make audiences feel comfortable with two dads or two guys being married and having a kid because their characters are fit into, quote unquote normal, heteronormal couples, I guess.
Right. I even wrote about that on my blog. I don't know if you remember when I wrote about True Blood and Lafayette.
Yeah.
And the I guess making gay characters less confrontational.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the opposite of progressive because it's trying to be progressive. Maybe.
Although they did have that one really interesting episode where they were trying to figure out who was the mom in the relationship, who was the woman.
Right.
And everyone kept saying, you're the mom or you're the mom, and they were like, no, they're gonna stop doing that, and that was really interesting.
Yeah. And I think I guess Phil Dunphy is maybe better than some TV fathers, dads that we've seen, but I feel like it's still kind of a stereotypical relationship where his wife's really controlling and he's kind of doofy and doesn't really know what's going on, and I don't know.
It's so true. You see this all the time in TV. It's like a typical trope. You've got, even in Family Guy, you've got the controlling woman who always knows what's going on, and the guy who has no idea what's going on. The father, or just how did he even get married in the first place?
Right.
Kind of situation.
Yeah.
And I think that Phil fits that description. Do you see the way he acts with his son? They're just, doing ridiculously stupid and dangerous things all the time, and
And I was thinking about all of this, and I looked it up. Neither of us, I don't think you've seen it. I haven't seen the What to Expect When You're Expecting movie, and it came out a month ago.
It did? I thought it was still coming out. Oh, geez.
No, it came out already. But I was thinking about, the previews for it, and it just, seems like a movie, full of stereotypes for humor. So you see, all these dads who are, no judging because, our kids get hurt all the time and we don't do anything about it. And so I was looking up stuff about the movie online, and the website that goes with the book What to Expect When You're Expecting, was promoting the movie, and then I was looking on the website, and there are a ton of different articles and stuff, and there's one really interesting one about written to mothers about how they should learn from the father's parenting instincts because men can be good parents too, surprisingly. And a lot of it was, and this is where I have trouble talking about sexism and feminism too, because it's maybe they're pointing out patterns and how a lot of guys do father, I don't know, how they act as fathers, but it just seems really stereotypical and sexist. So it's they follow their instincts more than reading books about how to be a parent, and they let their children be more independent and learn from their own mistakes and help themselves get up when they fall, whereas mothers are really coddly and want to help their children all the time, and dads make a fun game out of everything while moms are really serious and strict. And I don't know, it's interesting. But what do you think of that movie?
I know, I guess this is probably where we get into that whole biological issue. Are all dads really like this, or are dads mostly like this, or is this the way dads are culturally conditioned to be? And if that is the way dads are culturally conditioned to be, should women be more like that? I guess in my experience, I would say dads are just as likely to coddle their children after a fall. But maybe that's because I'm witnessing a generation of helicopter parents, and that crosses gender boundaries.
All parents are now ridiculously skating in college. But I think the biology argument is especially interesting when it comes to parenting because having kids is one of the main biological differences between men and women. And so watching previews for the movie, we have pregnant women who are talking about their hormones and how they can't control anything. And that's a biological experience that the man doesn't have. So there is at least a different experience there that you can clearly point to, which I think makes it easier for people to accept, like, yeah, this is how women are when they have kids.
Right. But, you know, I've heard the argument even that, and Tim Wise has made this argument, I know his specialty is mostly on race, but he's talked before about how people talk about hormones like only women have them. And men have hormones, and they have different cycles that they go through where their hormones can get a lot out of control the way that female hormones do as well, especially testosterone. And yet, when we talk about hormones, we talk about them like they're exclusively female. And so only women, only women are affected by hormones, and men, you know, aren't. So I guess biologically we might be affected by hormones differently, and that's definitely true, but biology isn't just something that like makes women one way and men one way in a way that conforms.
Right, like men aren't these logical robots that are not affected by any biological reaction.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, biology goes kind of both ways, but I really hate that biological argument that men are constantly controlled by sex and can't control themselves around sex, and
and that sex is always, you know, completely linked for women to emotions, and they can't handle sex the same way guys can.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Phil Dunphy's character displays a lot on Modern Family. There's this one episode when he's pretending that Sophia, that actress, is his wife, you know, and he's always portrayed as bumbling in regards to Sophia because he thinks that she's very attractive, and he's, you know, always trying to pull out chairs for her and make a fool of himself. And in that way, he's controlled by sex in a way that Claire is never shown.
And that's what's interesting, too, is with Mitch and Cam, the two of them are always kind of having the same experience as Phil is, except it will be with, like, the plumber who comes to their house or something, and they'll both, like, react, you know, that they want this attractive younger man to be around. And so it's interesting that they're holding up that male stereotype and that they both experience it all the time, and how that's different from Claire, like, hitting Phil because he's, you know, doing his dumb, controlled by sex man thing.
Right, it's very true. Something that I guess even gay people, even gay men are controlled by sex in a way that, you know, perhaps gay women are not, or lesbians are not. And that makes me think it's less of a, I guess that it makes me think that it's less of a biology thing and more of the way we just expect men to act.
Yep. I had something else to talk about, I think, with no, not with biology, but about fathers and how they're portrayed and stuff. But this is more real-life dads, I guess. I was reading a book called something. It's some feminist book, and I can't remember right now. But it's all about how, as a woman, you should work and, like, trying to convince you that you need to have your own career and job, and it's dangerous to stay at home because you can't support yourself. And what if your husband?
Oh, I remember this book.
Yeah, it has a lot of, like, really interesting things in it, some things I agree with and don't agree with. But one was talking about parenting and just, like, relationships, marriages in general between men and women, and sharing duties. And the woman was like, my husband always gets patted on the back when he, like, babysits the kids for a night. And it shouldn't be called babysitting when it's your own kids, but if he, like, gives his wife a night off, you know, and everyone's like, God, you're such a good dad. And moms don't get told that when they take care of their kids all the time necessarily. But I was wondering if you think this is changing more with the current generation as far as, like, sharing parenting duties and how dads are viewed, like, typical mom caretaking things. Are they still viewed as, like, wow, you're a really amazing dad because you're taking care of your kids?
I don't know. I know that it's not changing with me, and this is going to sound terrible, but you know, for Christmas, every every year my mom does most of the Christmas shopping for me and my brother. She usually buys us, what we need or what she thinks that we'll like. And then every Christmas, like a week before or even the night before, my dad will go out and he'll like pick out special presents from him to us, and when I'll open them, he'll be like, I got you that. And I'll be like, oh, thanks, Dad, right? But all the other presents that my mom has bought, they're from both of my parents, even though my mom is the one who did the shopping and the picking out. And last Christmas, my mom was like, no, that's from both of us, just like all the other presents. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I've been doing that. And I think we do have that tendency, that if mom does it, it's just something that's done. But if dad does it, that's something above and beyond in terms of domestic duties.
Yeah. But happy Father's Day, and we love dads everywhere, especially our dads.
Right.
But anyway, I think we passed our 10 minutes for our final section, so it's been another surprisingly quick webcast. Sadly. I'm going to try to do the outro. I don't know if the intro worked, but we're going to try to do the outro really fast. But thanks for watching.
And tune back in next Sunday. Not at the same time, perhaps, but definitely next Sunday we'll be doing our 4th webcast. Is it number 4 already?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.